edition of the Wrestle Watch podcast. I'm Ryan over here in this corner of the screen.
I'm Doug. I don't know what corner I'm in. I'm somewhere though.
You're
So
in the top right because you are top and always right.
okay.
Yeah.
Unless it's Magnificent Seven related. But we're
Then
not going to talk about that.
yeah, no, that's dead and buried. Although my AEW 9 heated up a little bit this week.
Yes,
I
yes, they
I
did.
I had two hits. Two hits. Um
Yeah, I'm. What's that feel like? That must feel great
um
to have
I I'll
to
I'll
be
put it
right about that.
I'll put it like this because I've been so right so many times about mine. I didn't even think about it until right now, this minute, when you mentioned the Magnificent Seven. I was like, wait a second. I have something like that. I did something like that before. Welcome everybody to the Wrestle Watch podcast. This is your only podcast that discusses free agency in the world of professional wrestling. Um, what? Anything else to say about that part there, Doug?
Sure. So you can go ahead and follow us on Substack, on Bluesky, on X, where we have our meticulously curated WrestleWatch free agency tracker that we update every week. We have a specific focus on Stardom, New Japan, AEW, and WWE in terms of jumps. But we do discuss other companies as well, and people obviously jumping from those companies. Uh, from and to and between these companies, all these jumping, these are things that we focus on. And this week, we're going to be talking about a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it's a pretty newsworthy week,
Yeah.
as WrestleMania week typically is.
Yeah, this week has been interesting for a number of factors that we cover here on Wrestle Watch. Um, it's been odd, though, because I don't think that we were expecting so many things that were not related to free agency, like, directly to happen. Um, so the first thing that we're going to cover today is the purchase of AAA by WWE. This happened this past weekend. As many of the reports have been out there, have said from various outlets such as Lucha Blog and Wrestling Observer Newsletter, this was something that was in the works for years, even that AAA was looking to sell. Maybe not necessarily to sell to WWE, but recently it had become negotiating with WWE. WWE was sending some executives to Mexico to observe AAA to make sure that they were a fine enough promotion and investment for them. But it didn't sound like the decision to actually purchase AAA came until this week when AEW announced that they were doing a show in Arena Mexico. And right off the back of that, WWE finishes and finalizes the purchase of AAA. We don't have a number yet of how much they sold it for. We've had some people trying to rumorize that it's 50 million. That has not been confirmed by any reputable outlet yet, so I don't think that we can say that that's how much it was yet. Some interesting notes about the purchase, of course, is that we don't know yet exactly how the creative is going to be structured there. AAA doesn't really have signed talent either. They have. I think that the list is two 100% definitely signed people, and then a few, like 10 people that are mostly signed people. So it's not exactly a you're buying a bunch of contracts kind of thing. They are buying a lot of the licenses for people's gimmicks, though, like Psycho Clown, Penta, Phoenix's gimmicks are owned by AAA. So that's kind of the basis of all of this. That's just the background. Doug, how do you have any more info or thoughts about everything that's going on with this?
I think that I'll say this. I think AAA obviously was a promotion that was not having a lot of critical acclaim the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school with that one. They largely have been critically panned. The shows haven't been great. Business has been okay, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but having said that, it's AAA is a very different promotion from CMLL. CMLL is a promotion that actually has assets. They own a lot of buildings. They're a they're a real estate company essentially that also runs a wrestling promotion. So Arena Mexico, obviously, that's the big one. CMLL owns it. So they're not like paying for rent or things like that. They own those buildings outright, and that's largely what they do. And CML is also a union shop.
Hmm.
All the talent's unionized.
Yeah.
So uh, AAA, on the other hand, is a promotion that doesn't really have any assets, like hard assets, other than intellectual property rights, which we talked about, um, and a couple of contracts. So on face value, you'd think, well, this isn't really that big of a. They're not really getting a whole lot, but they really are, because this is, as we said, it's a way to get into the country,
Hmm.
to break into Mexico. Um, at this point, I don't know how valuable that is, but we'll see. Time will tell. I mean, I don't know. But I also think it's noteworthy that CMLL also is now pushing this. We're the 100% Mexican promotion.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know how that resonates in Mexico. I really don't. Like, I don't know if there's this. Is there going to be this rejection of WWE coming in and seeing AAA and not wanting to be are the AAA fans going to reject AAA now?
Hmm.
That's the big question I have, is like, how are AAA fans going to react to this? I see some stuff online, just through Lucha Blog and people that actually speak Spanish and kind of have their finger on the pulse down there, and I get the impression that um, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, some people are interested and excited and want to see where it's going to go. Others are kind of upset, especially when we looked at what the ticket prices have turned into for some of these AAA shows going forward. Because they definitely increased a lot now that WWE owns them. So I don't know. This could be a thing where it could be really good for AAA. Maybe it helps boost their uh their prestige being tied to WWE, or this could just fall flat on their face, and this could end up being a big boon for CMLL.
Yeah.
So it'll
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see. I'll be sure. I don't know.
Yeah, we have some notes in the chat about all of this. One of the things that I've noticed about all of this is the uncertainty so far about what it will mean for the internal structure of AAA. Will it mean that AAA is now going to become WWE-ified? Will they be doing a hands-off approach? Will they just make it into NXT Mexico at a point? And something funny this week was that Conan on his podcast, and he's talking about the purchase of AAA from WWE, and he's WWE this entire time, Triple H and everybody are like, oh well, nothing's gonna change. Conan's like, well, I'm telling everybody that they better start learning English because that's what WWE wants them to do, and obviously that didn't sit well with I don't think that set well with the WWE people because um internet's kind of been scrubbed a little bit of that comment, and also they've announced, or it's been reported by a number of outlets, that Jeremy Borash will be going down to Mexico to oversee AAA from the WWE side. It's not known if he's going to be replacing Conan or anything like that, but like Conan thinks that he's going to be reporting up to. I think the list that he gave was Nick Khan, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, which isn't. I don't understand then where Triple A would lie in their pyramid if he's reporting to Shawn Michaels. Um, but it seems like the actuality is that he's going to be reporting to Jeremy Borash,
It,
and he
it,
didn't even know that. So
it seems like, I mean, I'm not surprise. Conan maybe doesn't actually have a good grasp on the corporate structure of WWE,
yeah,
and he doesn't. He probably doesn't understand. There's probably people that he would need to report to that aren't former wrestlers,
yeah,
and that are just people who are business people who do their job. But I have a hard time. I'd be surprised if Conan uh stays quiet for the rest of the year. I mean, I think we're gonna see him blowing up on social media about some grievance, some perceived grievance, uh, whether it's with Jeremy Borash or whoever else he needs to report to, when he feels like something isn't going his way, and then he's just going to burn the bridge.
Yeah, there's a very different way that WWE executives talk about things. Regardless of how this past week went, where they decided to just open the floodgates a little bit and ruin their PR buzz going into Mania, they're typically more measured people. They're
Yeah.
usually not. They don't host their own podcast. They're usually not going on podcasts and talking about the business and all those kinds of things. Usually not. So Conan's style with all this might not work within the TKO apparatus if they're trying to have a more tight grip on AAA and how they're changing things there. Um, Something that I remember reading about in the Lucha Blog's original piece about all of this was kind of the three paths that could be leading forward from here of the Mexican system. One being that WWE just lets AAA exist and doesn't do anything, which is probably not what's going to happen. Um, One which is WWE tries and flounders. This is partially because AAA has been kind of floundering a little bit recently. They've been having issues with the alleged reason for why they sold now is that they're not getting enough revenue from sponsorships in Mexico anymore. So the money wasn't rolling in as much, even though they were doing decently well on ticket sales. So they needed an infusion of cash to keep the promotion running. Here comes WWE then because they wanted to enter the market. The issue for WWE entering the market is that the way that AAA has worked is working with local promoters to book shows. So they will have like regional promoters that own these venues or book these venues, and they say, "Hey, we want to bring AAA in for this show." This is very similar to how like concerts work in the U.S.
Yeah, or even the CMLL show I worked with, I went to this past week. It was very much run by a local promotion, but they brought CMLL in.
Yeah. So the thing is that WWE also did this when they would go to Mexico previously, but they want to in the future just be the promoter themselves. So directly contact the arenas and all those kinds of things. Um, I don't know how that's going to work in Mexico, especially because now you're going to go in direct opposition to these partners that exist um, and tell them you're not getting any money anymore, all at the same time. Like that's a big change, very quickly. And I also think that that leads the possibility for a third promotion to kind of take the place that AAA was having with these local promoters. But the issue there was having the financial backing to do that. So then the third option that Lucha Blog was outlining was that WWE pumps a lot of money into Mexico and just tries to sign up every young luchador from CMLL's roster, and then they essentially just park them, in AAA, kill the business in Mexico, like they did in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's going to be either a combination of two and three because and this is my prediction, I'm putting it out here now on April 26th, 2025. Here's my prediction of how this AAA WWE purchase is going to play out. I think we're going to see a situation where WWE tries to pump up AAA for a while. I think what's going to happen is they're going to increase the number of WWE branded shows as well as AAA shows. And then I think slowly we're going to see the AAA shows just disappear
Yeah,
and the WWE shows replace those. And this is how they're just going to slowly fade out AAA completely and have WWE take more of a role branding wise within Mexico. They've started because here's the thing. they didn't run, they for the longest time they didn't run Mexico.
Yeah.
WWE, I mean. They would do house shows here and there, and they still do occasionally house shows, but that's nothing major. It's just on the periphery. And I think that this is going to be their chance to kind of do a little bit more. Um, I think the one thing we probably should talk about, just since this is, related to what we discussed here on Wrestle Watch, is some of the contract stuff. Obviously, Vikingo is the big one. Who, I had a friend say that, hey, whatever WWE paid for it, I think, getting Vikingo is worth it. And I get it, but I also think that a lot of people haven't been paying that much attention to Vikingo lately. He's, since he came back from injury, he's not looked the same.
Yeah.
It could just be that he hasn't been put in a lot of positions to kind of really show what he can do again, but he doesn't feel like the same Vikingo, and I don't know that he's worth buying an entire wrestling promotion for.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, and I'm gonna do a poll in the chat because that's fun. What is most likely going to happen with AAA? Status quo, essentially. Like they just keep on keeping on just where they are. Um, what's crash and burn?
And then
end
slow
of
takeover.
end of CMLL.
Yeah.
We'll start that poll and see what happens.
Realistically, like I said, I don't think any of those things are going to happen. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a slow takeover of AAA by WWE. I think WWE just kind of takes that spot that AAA had, and I don't think anything happens with CMLL.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
So yeah, a Wrestling Observer newsletter said that they might have about 13 people total under contract currently. Yeah, and one of those that's notable that I think might not be under contract fully is Psycho Clown, but Psycho Clown's gimmick is owned by AAA, and he uses the gimmick then on indie bookings, and so it's kind of he's gonna have to play ball with WWE.
Yeah, like probably all the clowns, right?
Yeah,
I would think so. And that's but obviously Psycho Clown's, at one point he was the biggest star in the company.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's a really uncomfortable, unfortunate situation because he's got a gimmick that's very, very reliant on, he relies on his gimmick in order to actually, make it work.
Yeah.
So the idea of not having that, that's almost starting from square one with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he'll probably still be in the camp just because of that. But yeah, I don't know if I have. I guess I've said everything I need to say about AAA and WWE. I think as we said, it's a very let's see how it plays out situation.
Yeah.
But from hindsight and what we know about history, it's not gonna be really great. It's not gonna be great for AAA. I feel that. I feel pretty confident about that. Like the future of AAA is not strong. Do I feel that it's gonna? I don't know that it's gonna be like a the NXT UK takeover thing because I will say this: the thing with UK is there wasn't like a strong like national brand. It's like it was like Progress and Rev Pro, and they were all essentially indies.
Yeah.
They didn't have like a giant company like CMLL, which owns buildings and is packing 16,000 people on their Friday night shows. It's a different animal. So that's the one thing I will say. I'd say it's closer to Japan. And as we saw, WWE cannot crack Japan. So I think that this is different in the sense that they actually do have a foothold with a major company. They never had that in Japan, but they have that in Mexico now. So I think, like I said, I think what's going to happen, they're just going to take the spot of AAA. I don't think they're going to overtake CMLL. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think that I think the difference with the UK, what happened there is that there wasn't a strong historic brand that was extant when WWE came in, so there wasn't like much of resistance to WWE and what they were doing.
And also it's an English speaking country, so they're going to
Yeah.
be a lot more open to WWE in the first place.
Now interesting, some interesting things in chat. I see. Feels Luke saying, I can see it being a massive money sink for WWE since AAA is already hemorrhaging cash as is. Yeah, that's another factor of all this, is that it's a publicly traded company. As far as we are aware, WWE, a TKO, is the company that's bought AAA. It's not Endeavor buying it, which is now going private. It's the public TKO, which means that they will have to, make it make sense financially. And I don't know what timescale though, but they will have to make it make financial sense at a point to do this whole effort. Whereas before, because of how many shareholders were the McMahons, they didn't have to worry about that with other takeovers in the past of territories and such.
I think it's pretty clear that jacked up ticket prices for AAA shows.
Yeah,
that is their attempt to very quickly plug any hole.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's not just AAA that's raised their prices recently. That TNA also, they have a show this weekend. I forget what the name of it is because they bleed together for me. They have a show on Sunday, and the ticket prices for that show are more expensive than normal, and the pay-per-view price is more expensive than normal, and it's a B pay-per-view. So I think that it's just a lot of people are trying to cash in right now, just like WWE was with WrestleMania. But a question that's coming up here in chat discussion is Noah on watch then?
Yes, I think Noah's on watch. I absolutely. But I'll say this: I don't know if Cyber Agent wants. Here, Cyber Agent is a big company. I think it's bigger than Bushiroad.
As a company, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and Noah has been doing better lately. I think it's a question of, does Cyber Agent want to even sell Noah?
Yeah.
It could be a thing where they are in the situation where they're just like, why do we have like all these different? Because they have DDT, they have Noah, they have Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's like at some point maybe they're just like, you know what? Maybe we need to just focus on and kind of consolidate a little bit more. I could understand an argument. If that was the case, I'd probably get rid of Noah and keep DDT.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's part of it, maybe. And obviously WWE's been around the periphery of Noah for well over a year at this point. So I wouldn't be stunned if they jumped in and bought Noah. Once again, if it was me and I'm running WWE, I think that doing this in Mexico is a good test case.
Yeah.
I would see how this goes first. Because if this flops, if they can't do this in Mexico, they're not going to be able to do this in Japan.
No.
So I think they got to I'd wait a year at least and see how this actually rolls out.
Well, our poll here is closed, and the most likely option that our chat thinks is crash and burn with how this will go.
I see. I don't think it's going to crash and burn. It's not going to be a collapse, I think.
Okay.
I think if anything, it's going to just be, I think they're going to more or less break even. Because if let's say they spent 50 million on this thing, I think they could break even at least. And then they'll have a foothold. I think I think they'll struggle to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is growing. I'll put that out there. I think that whatever AAA's market value and market share is now, I think it's staying there at best. And maybe that's a win. I don't know for WWE. Is that a win? I think that could be a win.
It could be a win to keep a competition that is counter to CMLL that will try to sign talent to essentially ID type deals where they won't be able to be signed by CMLL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's it. I don't know that WWE is going to throw that much money in Mexico.
I think that there's going to be a change. There has to be a change in demeanor from CMLL about how they sign talent. And I think that they became wise to it after last year with Vekor. But I think that after this, what's happening now with AAA, I think that they need to change their entire like how they operate with contracts. Um, like I think it's good that they're pro labor and all those things, and but it's like for the existence of their company, they're going to not have to just like they're gonna have their contracts say that you can't just walk, you know.
Yeah, and it's going to be a thing where obviously we're kind of building up this NATO versus Warsaw Pact situation in pro wrestling. And is AEW going to be taking more of a role in this?
Well,
Are they going to be trying to back CMLL in certain situations and try to help them out?
I
Because that
yeah.
hasn't really been seen yet either.
Well, I think that this coming week in June is kind of a test case of things to come with that. Um, because it's not just one AEW show that's happening. It is one AEW show that's happening, but it's there is a show on Tuesday that is run by CMLL that will be CMLL versus AEW. Then Wednesday is Dynamite. Then Friday is Fantasticomania, which this year they're expanding to being all of the partner promotions. So RevPro is included in it. MLW is included in it. AEW will be there as well. Usually it's just New Japan. So I think that this is going to be kind of the test case of like, yeah, so are we gonna try to really push trying to have these guest talent come into Mexico more often? I can see a situation where I don't see a situation where Tony Khan tries to buy any of these partner promotions. Um, the ethos of AEW with their partner promotions has been you are a partner to AEW. So just right on down to how for Forbidden Door they wanted to do it Forbidden Door 3 in Arthur Ashe Stadium. They wanted to do it there originally, AEW did. And New Japan said, "Cool, that sounds like a great idea." And AEW said, "Okay, great. So we're going to split the cost because it's a co-production, right?" And then New Japan said, "Can we do a different place, please? That's too expensive." So that's why it happened at UBS instead of Arthur Ashe, was because it was too expensive for New Japan's budget to do that arena. So I think that kind of tells you a lot about how AEW views the partnerships. They are partnerships. There's allegedly, ostensibly equals every single one of these partnerships that AEW has. Some of them are a little bit more like, affiliate kind of feel to it, like the Rev Pro or the Maple Leaf Pro kind of, vibes. How sometimes they would do things with Defy or, other indie promotions. That's like a different tier below the CMLL New Japan tier where it's like, no, you guys are equals to us. Even if we are the big brother, we're all brothers still,
Yeah.
Whereas WWE's demeanor is, okay, so there's the main roster, and then there's NXT, and then there's all of you guys. Have fun down there. Like sometimes you can exchange people with NXT, but we're going to send our people that need reps from NXT to you. We're not going to send our top talent, and you're going to send your top talent to NXT.
And that's how it's been.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that with TNA. We're seeing that with TNA, where it's
Which,
like
yeah.
they're getting the no name NXT talent and treating it like it's a big deal, and then they send Joe Hendry to get squashed in 3 minutes.
So speaking of which, wait, we'll go to that one next. Joe Hendry at Mania, was it good or bad for TNA? I'm gonna do that as a poll too.
Okay. Hang on, let me get my notes real quick.
Yeah,
Hang
do
on.
we?
I was prepared.
You
for this
prepared
one.
for this one?
Give me a second.
Do we want the poll to be is this a good or bad thing for TNA? Yeah, just that.
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, that's fine. That'll work. So hang on. So this is my my notes on, was Joe Hendry at Mania good for TNA?
Yeah.
All right. No. There we go.
Oh wow, that was very well written.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just.
That was not good for TNA. I'm sorry. This was not he did not get the rub, as they say.
Yeah,
by being in the same ring as one Randy Orton.
yeah. The chat, people are commenting in the chat about this too. In addition to voting in our poll, thank you for doing that. Um, the overwhelming like reaction from people writing in chat is that it is good or even great for Joe Hendry, but awful bad terrible for TNA.
I
Um,
don't know. Is it good for Joe Hendry?
that is possibly the more interesting question than is it good for TNA.
Yeah. I'll say this. I am not the biggest Joe Hendry, like, I don't think he has a high ceiling. I mean, at least not as high as other people think. He's largely I mean, yeah, he's a comedy guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's very popular. I'm not gonna give him that. I'll give him that. But he's a comedy guy who's not really that great in the ring. Like he's a funnier LA Knight.
Hmm.
And I think people similar to LA Knight had this idea that he was going to be a much bigger star and have a higher ceiling than he actually had. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the opinion is for Joe Hendry as well. Now, having said that, would they have put LA Knight in this situation and had him get squashed in 3 minutes? I don't think so.
No.
No. Um, I don't think they would have done this to anyone. I don't think WWE would have done this to any of their talent that they actually care about and want to look good and be presented well and get a push. I don't think they would have. So to me, that's all you got to know. It's like that they did this with a TNA guy, and that kind of shows how they feel about TNA and maybe how they feel about him. And granted, this was a last minute thing. You know, this was supposed to be Kevin Owens,
Mm-hmm.
and they just threw him in there. And I'm sure that whoever did this genuinely thought, oh, this is great for him because he's going to get to be on WrestleMania and think it because they love WrestleMania. And I, uh, I think that's just it's not going to work out. This was a bad thing. Now, I'm not saying that he's never going to come back from this. I mean, it's Joe Hendry is very popular. Um, they kept him away from if they kept him away from WWE for the next like 6 months and then brought him back in some, big angle and big fashion, it'd be fine. I'm sure that everyone will just kind of just forget it. Um, but this idea that this was a positive for Joe Hendry in some way is ridiculous to me.
So, um, let me just try to find the comments here that I was intrigued by.
Yeah. And then TNA, obviously, there's nothing good for TNA here. Like that's even more obvious.
So somebody pointed out here, it's great for Hendry. This is Spencer in chat. Great for Hendry, bad for TNA. I no longer think of TNA when I think of Joe Hendry. What good is that?
I mean, I think at best it's like neutral for Hendry because, as I said, if he goes away for 6 months and then he comes back, I think it'll be no different. I
Yeah,
think but it's like do we want him to be the comedy guy?
I
Like
think
if
that
that's all we think he is, then, and I frankly kind of already do think that, then yeah, I guess it might be. You could maybe make an argument it's good for Joe Hendry. Like
I
if he's R-Truth.
yeah. I think that the thing is with Joe Hendry is that he has tried to transition himself away from being purely just a comedy guy. I mean, he is TNA World Champion, and he is trying to do serious matches while World Champion. Is he have a comedy aspect to his gimmick still? Yes. I am going to liken it to Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy as a character is not a serious character, right? You look at Orange Cassidy, you're just kind of like, oh, it's the guy that puts his hands in his pocket, you know? And was there a time where Orange Cassidy did not have serious matches and was not taken seriously? Yes. Is that the case nowadays? No. I think that Orange Cassidy is taken seriously when he is wrestling.
There's a good, and he's a good example, and I'm going to bring this up. Why is he different? There's a very good reason. I'm going to tell you, and we'll see if you can tell me.
Why?
Because Orange Cassidy can have good matches. Orange
Well,
Cassidy can wrestle. Orange Cassidy can do a lot more. He is more than just his gimmick. he has a wider range. You could do more with Orange Cassidy. You don't have that option with Joe Hendry.
I don't think he's a terrible wrestler. But I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that he is trying to do more with his wrestling. He's trying.
He is.
And I don't think that having him go out there for a 3-minute match where he is holding the TNA belt, going to the ring, and getting squashed is necessarily great for his effort to try to get out of just being comedy.
No, it's not.
Um, and I also I think that in
yeah.
WWE that he has a higher ceiling than just being comedy guy because of how the
company presents people.
Well, it's that the WWE. I've said this before, with the big difference between an AEW fan and a WWE fan, is that if you have a botch in an AEW match, the crowd just goes for the kill on you, right?
Yes.
They will either start yelling at you, they'll start booing, they'll just tune out of the match even. If you do that in a WWE match, the crowd is far more forgiving. So
sometimes the crowd's not even paying attention.
But but still, the point is that the crowd is far more forgiving in WWE to the in-ring quality because they want to watch for the storytelling aspect that's happening surrounding the match.
Yeah.
Whereas AEW and AEW is about the match.
Yes.
So
I think that's dead on.
So I think that
right.
So I think that Joe Hendry's ceiling then is quite high in WWE because he does every other thing outside of the ring extremely well, and he can push himself extremely well. And what he does in the ring is fun. So that's why I think that just having him lose in 3 minutes to even Randy Orton on the grandest stage of them all while carrying a world championship is not the best thing for him. For his stock, it went because I think it's a when he goes to WWE. I don't think it's an if at this point.
Yeah, if they put him on WrestleMania, that says a lot.
So I think it's good for Hendry in that regard because I think he's going to go to WWE and get a fat check. And I think
you're right.
So there's that part of it.
Get the bag, song man.
And our poll here, we had a second poll that was it good or bad for Joe Hendry? And majority think that it is good overall for Joe Hendry.
Okay. You know what? I concede that he may get paid, and that is good for him.
Somebody in the chat, Craig says Joe Hendry will be the next Jey Uso. I think that is very possible. But I have a lot more fun with Joe Hendry personally. And I just wanted to quickly hit on the WWE GCW relationship because I think that this kind of is still in the same milieu that we were talking about with the AAA and the TNA stuff. Is that it seems that WWE said that what they want to do over Mania Week this year and in the future is take hold of things that already exist, take advantage of those things. And one of the things that we saw this year was GCW's collective being WWE-ified. Go ahead.
I mean, that's a good way to put it because they were all over the collective, and it was said it wasn't there. They weren't sending their best. It was no, this was even lower because this was like the WWID people who are, it's funny because it's like a lot of them are already working these indies in the first place, and then they just got this ID tag to them.
Yeah, so the GCW hosted one night of the WWE ID Championship Tournament, and then they also then did Bloodsport, which wasn't quite Switzerland, as Luke says in the chat. I believe it was 6 different WWE talent were on the card, and they won 5 of their matches. The only one where they didn't win was Micah versus Carmen Petrov. And she is an NXT mid card is probably putting it like nicely for where she slots in on NXT.
Well, and also Micah's the red belt champ in Stardom too, so it's not like she's gonna take a loss.
Yes,
so it's like how generous of WWE to allow their mid-card NXT talent to lose to the champion in Stardom.
And it was a 7 of 10 matches, 6 wins. That was the correct answer there on that. Yeah, it was overwhelming to watch that with how many. I think that overall, in a vacuum, I think that it is good for the industry if WWE allows its talent to take bookings like this. Because I think it's great for the talent to be able to have the freedom to do these shows. I think it's good for these shows to have talent like with Bloodsport. Honestly, like Tevion Heights was really fun to watch in that kind of environment because of his background doing Greco-Roman wrestling. It was really fun to watch that match. That was one of my favorites of all the stuff that I saw on Mania Week in Vegas. That being said, if there's strings attached, then it's not good for the health of the.
It's a messy situation in that regard. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately we need to just see where this goes. I will say this: if I see a situation where we start seeing talent on these WWID deals and telling them you can only work these promotions, that's when you know that things have gone sideways.
Yeah, I think that that's the direction that they want to take it, because I see the seeds of it with what's this whole entrance into Mexico, where it's like we're going to come into this territory, we already have the groundwork laid with the WWE ID kind of stuff of like, okay, yeah, so we're going to start tagging you all, and now we have promotions that are kind of into booking you, and maybe we're going to make it so that in the future it's only those promotions you can work for, and so, well, we have our affiliate in Mexico, you can work with them, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, and ultimately that's probably where it's going, but we'll see what happens. All right, so should we go into the tracker now for this week?
Yes. So we're going to start talking about the tracker. If any of you have any questions for us to answer by the end of the podcast here in chat, let us know as we start going into the tracker. This is last week's Pro Wrestling Free Agency tracker. You can see it on the center of the screen. If you can't read it because you're listening to the podcast, don't worry about that because it's not going to matter in a few seconds. First up, we have Rusev is now how he is known again. He is once again Rusev, not Miro any longer. The former Miro, the former Rusev, returned to WWE on Raw this past week. He came out as a surprise to face Otis, and had some fun, did some of his regular spots. Not much more to say here, I don't think.
Yeah, it's he looked like how he looked, and he didn't lose. He didn't that was the big thing. The guy was very, very particular about his creative, so he must be happy now. So good for him. I suspect that he's finally happy now, and he'll be where he wants to be. So another one of the COVID cuts. The disgruntled people who came to AEW begrudgingly are gone. So he is now a confirmed jump. So, good for him.
He's also on my AEW 9, my list of people who I thought would at least get interest from WWE. Maybe not jump necessarily, but get interest.
Yeah. Well, and now we'll talk about the next person too.
Oh, and I just wanted to mention with Rusev is that he signed a 2-year deal.
Okay.
Which lines up with where when his deal with AEW was supposed to expire. So
look at that.
The other person,
I'll say one more thing about Rusev, just because I think it's notable that he was also one of the people from these departures that did sign an extension.
Yes,
he did extend. And there wasn't too many that did that, but he was one. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up.
Yeah, and we just as another note here, we had him as a safe jump, and now he is a confirmed jump. He is off our tier list. I think that something that we're going to talk about also with Aleister Black here is a note here from Owen in chat. I swear if this ends in him losing an IC match, then he's Geek of the Decade. I think something interesting to think about with all these people that have been going to WWE recently over the past year from other promotions has been that within a year they have all won a championship except for Penta and Jordan Grace currently. Jordan Grace was fairly recently added to WWE proper, and Penta. I think that they possibly are just waiting for Phoenix to come around. So we'll
Yeah.
see. I think that those two will win titles fairly soon to today. But I think that will be interesting to see how they handle Miro and Aleister Black, considering that the title that they gave to Andrade was the Speed title.
Well, I could see them just obviously reuniting them as a tag team.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But looking at Aleister Black, confirmed jump. Let's see if he is miraculously healed and can now do singles matches. Or well, he said that wasn't true. I don't know what happened with him. His run. One day, someone's gonna write a book, like explaining what happened with him in AEW. Because obviously there was a lot of just like rejecting booking and not want to take losses and things like that. But the guy was like just stuck at the trios division, and there was reports that he was like, his back was all messed up, and so I'll be curious to see how he's used now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will say this: a lot of people have gone back to WWE, and they are wrestling a lot less.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that this will be interesting to see how this goes. Um, just give me 1 second. Can you vamp for a second?
Sure. So I think that, and then here's the other thing. We're going to talk about this when we get to the updated tracker. But I think this might be at any point in the history of this project of ours where we kind of track the jumps. This might be the lowest number of jumps, like of potential jumps that we have across safe, likely, and lean jump. Because after today, when we go over the chart, you'll see we're down to 5.
Mm-hmm.
After we got Hikuleo, Jeff Cobb, Ninja Mac, B Priestley, and Good Brothers. And I think there's an argument to be made that a couple of those are going to be coming off that list real soon. And so that to me shows that we are firmly out of free agency season, contract season. If this is what, and which makes sense because Mania just wrapped up, so it would align with that fact. So
Yeah.
It'd be interesting going forward. So that from now on, I think we're going to be talking about a lot of people, not necessarily with contracts expiring, but maybe people jumping from other promotions to either WWE, AEW, or New Japan.
Yeah, and if you wanted to, we can go down the Wrestler Watch free agency tracker as it stands right now, and we can stop every tier if there's somebody of interest.
Yeah, we can. So we have obviously Hikuleo and Jeff Cobb
Yeah.
on safe jump. Jeff Cobb, I suspect, will be popping up very shortly.
Yeah.
Hikuleo, who knows?
Just wanted to mention that there's been some fun readings of War of Words between Jeff Cobb and TJP that can be seen and discussed elsewhere, but it seems that Jeff Cobb had been wanting to get out of New Japan for a while now, is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. All right, now for likely jump, we do have Ninja Max still.
Yeah.
Lean jump, we have B Priestley and Good Brothers. Good Brothers, I suspect we'll be seeing them very shortly.
Yeah,
next in a New Japan ring.
A few weeks,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, but once again, we don't really know what that means in terms of their contract status, so time will tell.
Yeah.
Then for toss-ups, we have Bishop Dyer, Cedric Alexander, Zaya, Danhausen, Mariah May, and Michael Oku. For lean stay, we have Joe Hendry and Alexander Hammerstone. Likely stay is sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say those are two that might be splitting their movements soon enough.
Yes, this is true. Likely stay, we have AJ Styles, Mayu Iwatani, Alex Windsor, Beth Phoenix, Gabe Kidd, Indy Hartwell, Leon Slater, Persephone, Soraya, and Shinsuke Nakamura. And then for safe stay, we have Sari, Utami Yashishita, Tam Nakano, Nixon Newell, Sami Zayn, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Matt Cardona. Sorry about that.
Blessings.
I tried to pause it or mute before I could. I didn't get to it. And then Samantha Irvin.
And we have a note here in chat saying Mariah probably should be higher. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it's I think that I said last week that I think that she's more likely to jump than stay.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable with her being at a toss up.
Yeah, I think that she's a toss up right now, at least just based off of the whole like she's working the sheets, you know? She is doing this perfectly, and this is something that we talked about in our committee chat last night was people just like she posted a random photo from Revolution from backstage of just wearing something, and people just started talking about her and about, like, oh yeah, I don't mind if she leaves. Oh, I want her to stay, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, you're doing exactly what she wants you to do. She wants you to keep her in the conversation. She wants people to remember that she's important. She's using her leverage and making people know that she is, she's viral as far as it goes in the wrestling industry.
Like I said, the one thing that gave me pause was when we had the report that says people within AEW believe she's leaving.
Yeah.
Now, once again, she could be just like going to someone and saying like, "Hey, so and so, can you say this so that it helps my leverage?" But I don't know of any situation so far where we got a report that someone in AEW thinks that this person in AEW is leaving and they didn't leave.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that for me. But I still am comfortable with her being toss up for now, just because I think that she, as you said, she is smart, and I think that she is absolutely someone who's going to use her leverage. And I think I could see a situation where AEW did offer her more money, and she decided to take the money.
Garcia is an example that's been given in the chat.
Yes,
possibly
that. Perfect example.
And it feels very similar.
Yeah.
And then we have a question in chat. Heard some rumblings about Kylie Ray not being on the roster page anymore. I believe that's the WWE ID page. Do you have any relevant thoughts on that?
I don't want to go too deep into her and her situations, but it doesn't surprise me that, maybe she decided to pass on that. She's got a lot of other stuff going on just in terms of, she's got a life. She's a new mom. She, is pretty popular and content with her indie work. It could be she's in a situation where maybe she didn't want to upend her whole life. I don't know.
Yeah,
she's in it. Kylie Ray is such an interesting story in wrestling, just because of it's a lot of twists and turns. But I think I'm just gonna leave it at that.
And let's see if I did this correctly. No, I didn't. Okay, well, I wanted to talk about Guerillas of Destiny for report card purposes. If you wanted to.
Well, all right. So,
or if you want to do that next weekend.
Let me frame it this way. No, I could do it real quick now. It's fine, because I don't have a whole lot to say about the Guerillas of Destiny. Essentially, what they were in New Japan was just this stalwart tag team that would get pushed every now and then, and everyone who watched New Japan was very fine and had no problem seeing them leave, because it was the same thing over and over again. And now they're in WWE and they're more or less doing the same thing. They quickly realized that Tonga Loa can't work. That became very quickly apparent. Something that New Japan figured out on their own as well. And I don't know. I don't think I feel like it's just been kind of a lateral move.
Yeah, So, as far as I think with the decision to let them walk for New Japan, I think it's been okay. I think that their tag division needs some help, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they could have helped.
I don't think this has been a negative for New Japan. I don't think it's been a positive for WWE, but I don't think it's been a positive for New Japan or a negative for WWE. It is what it is. This is like it was a lateral, nothing changed. It's like, okay, so these nothing, it's gonna sound mean. These, ultimately they don't mean a whole lot. Tag team in New Japan left, and now they went to WWE, and now they're a nothing. Don't really mean a whole lot. Mean much tag team in WWE.
Yeah, I would grade it for New Japan as I would. I mean, just because they haven't really replaced their spot on the roster with a new tag team yet,
Yeah,
I guess I would say it's a B plus because they got rid of some people that weren't up to snuff as much anymore. But they didn't really replace them either. So maybe a B, even a B plus.
I think I'm in that B range as well.
For WWE, there was kind of the promo victory, the PR victory of it all. But like, yeah, Tonga Loa just is not it. And so I don't think that they're getting a lot out of them. They haven't really been on screen for I don't know how long at this point. It just doesn't feel like I don't know. I don't think that this was a big win of a signing by WWE. I'm not sure exactly where I would place it as a score. As a grade, it might be a C minus or a D plus of a signing.
You know what I'm going to do? Just going to say it's a B minus for both.
Oh,
B minus for both because New Japan lost them and they're nothing, and then WWE gained them. They were nothing, and I feel like nobody really benefited. Nobody really lost anything either, though. It's just another warm body. They're useful, I suppose, in certain situations, especially if WWE just needs. I mean, they're good hands to just kind of get beat
what do
and
you?
then get occasionally a push.
Yeah, what do you think about though about how it is for them personally?
Fantastic for them. A for them. I think they
Yeah,
made the right move. Listen, that A, good. Listen, they're pros. You gotta give them that. I mean, they're not like Good Brothers pros. I mean, they're Good Brothers are like next level. They're like in my worker Hall of Fame
they're
in
Mount
terms.
Rushmore of workers.
Yeah, there's just the amount of just like falling into good luck and just working everyone and finding big contracts left and right no matter what happens and doing the absolute bare minimum everywhere they go. Like they're my heroes, if anything.
We have some people mentioning that Tangaloa his last match was in November, but it possibly is because Tama Tonga has been hurt for a little bit now. And of course, the best God member that WWE has signed right now is Hikuleo, who's not even being used.
Yeah.
So it's an easy
I
payday for him. He's getting the Becky Lynch treatment right now.
look, Guerillas of Destiny have landed a sweet gig.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up the report card, and that wraps up our episode of Wrestle Watch this week. Yeah, you can subscribe to us on Substack, and if you do, you will get an email with the nomination forms link. You can suggest people for us to vote on and discuss here each and every week for our free agency tracker. You can also follow us on Bluesky and X, and make sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube. Drop a like; it helps the algorithm. I don't think that there's anything else really to cover for this week. Do you, Doug?
No, I think we're good. So with that, I am Doug.
And I'm Ryan. Thank you all for tuning in, and have